Hi, Adrian. Welcome to the
Hey,
show. Thanks so much for
hey,
coming on.
thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, likewise. Likewise. I'm excited for this conversation because everything in your business got easier when you stopped chasing that volume and started really filtering down into the right target niche, the right pricing, a paywall behind your community. So it was really a case of less but better, higher quality, more targeted at every single layer. Which, most advice out there would be, say, start cheap, broaden targeting, and then build buyers and ascend them through that ascension model. But you did the opposite. You went from, like a $29 product, I think it was, that you struggled to sell, and then went to the straight to the high ticket program that sells much easier for you, and everything just became, much better downstream of that. Give me the short version of that journey, and then we'll unpack it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much in the journey, right? As you can imagine, I've tried over the years. I've tried so many different things to, find something that will land, find something that will convert, find something that will be interesting for me to share. Because, I think there's a lot of this is a process of matching a ideal client that you actually want to service, want to help, and can help, and a
Mm-hmm.
product or an approach that you want to deliver and you enjoy delivering and you're passionate about delivering, and a kind of structure community put together in a way that is sustainable for the person delivering it. And
Mm.
if you get any one of those things wrong, it's this sort of business is really tough and it's a grind, and it's not very fulfilling. But if you get them right, it really starts to flow and feel a lot easier. Um,
Mm.
so back to the kind of question, my journey. You said, like you correctly said, I started with a $29 product that was actually really hard to sell, and now I'm selling a much more expensive mentoring program, and it's easy to sell, and I'm enjoying delivering it, which is great. But that
Mm.
journey, a lot of it is a journey of confidence in my ability to deliver and my ability to help people and get the outcomes and the results, and in the value that I bring. At the beginning, I built a website and I came up with the first product, and I thought I'd better make it a cheap one because that'd be easier to sell. And it really just wasn't. Like, it was really tough to sell something for $29 on the internet at the time, and it's just because I didn't have all the pieces right. And
Mm.
it's actually much easier to sell when you've got all of those bits of the puzzle right. You've got the right person, you've got the product that can deliver to them, and you're passionate about the product's ability. Because then when you talk about it, when you share it with people, the enthusiasm becomes infectious and the conversion is much easier, and they also get a better result. So
Mm.
from $29 product to $10,000 mentoring program, the steps were really about understanding who I was servicing and which groups I liked to service and which groups I didn't. Because in my world, I teach trading education, and there's a lot of different types of people. And it took me quite a few years to kind of figure out, okay, who are those types of people and which ones am I really passionate about? And yeah, I can help them all, but really, do I want to? And where does my kind of sweet spot lie? And once I started to figure that out, then I built products to focus on that niche of people. And then I improved those products and made them easier for the students, for the members to learn from and grow with. And then once it was easier for them, I was getting better results. So then I could talk about the results, and then so I could talk to a higher level of person. And so it was really just that building of confidence and that narrowing down of who I was servicing, what I was servicing them with, and how I was delivering it, that just allowed me to edge up the price and edge up the value and improve the outcomes like exponentially.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Really interesting. And yeah, I mean, so you've got to go through that process because it's about the experience and lessons that you stack, and you're systematically figuring things out, figuring what works, figuring what doesn't work. But take me back to, so you started, you were in corporate, right? Grinding out 12 to 16-hour days, commuting to work. And what that moment where you realized you felt trapped in a life you hadn't designed, what then happened? How did you, then transition into what it is that you do now?
Yeah, so I had a very traditional career. I left school. I was good at maths and science. I studied engineering because that was like a natural transition. I went from engineering into strategy consulting, business consulting. I did a lot of strategy, operational improvement, cost reduction, all this sort of stuff for large corporates.
Mm-hmm.
And the work was okay. Like, it was interesting and mentally stimulating, certainly. But man, long hours and high stress and lots of travel, and that was pretty tough. And so I did that for a bunch of years, and I also had some roles in corporate finance, corporate strategy, those sorts of things. And all of it was, mostly kind of interesting work, but just, hard slog, other people's deadlines, lots of stress. And I was just doing it because I was good at it. I wasn't really passionate about it. It was just the only path I knew. I started solving business problems straight out of uni doing consulting work. And so I kind of just stuck with that, and I was pretty good at it. But long hours and travel and stress and other people's deadlines really did just create this life that I was just, at least business life, that I was just loathing. It's probably a little bit too strong a word, but it was just chiseling away at my joy, there was just not much joy left by the end of it. And I ended up being able to leave the corporate world because of my trading. So I teach trading and I trade myself, but when I first stepped out of the corporate world, it was to trade full time. And I'd been trading for a long time then, and my trading made more money than my job that year in 2012. So I said, okay, well, it's kind of an easy choice. Trading takes me 20, 30 minutes a day, no stress. I enjoy it. I love it. And 12, 16 hours a day in the corporate world, lots of stress, and I really don't love it. So I'm just going to give that away, and I'm going to focus on this. But what was interesting was that it didn't take very long of me being at home full time, just trading, to find myself bored, lonely, and depressed, because I didn't have a community. I didn't have people around me. I didn't have anyone to talk to about my stuff. And so I was very isolated. And that ultimately led me to start teaching, because I needed contact and I needed people around me. I wanted to find my people. And I'd never found my people when it came to trading, which is my niche, right? I had always just been doing it alone. And so Enlightened Stock Trading, which is the business, was born out of a need to create a community to keep my sanity, really. And I went through a few iterations to try and find the right people, as we were talking about earlier. But now that I've figured out who they are, and now that I know how to work with them and I know how to accelerate their journey, now I've got heaps of people around me in my world who are great at the thing that I love, which is trading. And that's because I've taught them, and we've got this community that shows them the way.
Yeah, really cool. So when you started teaching and building the community, did you did that out of just that feeling of isolation and loneliness, and then you realized that was what you were, most passionate about? You obviously had success trading, to be able to basically quit your job. What was it that you found, so when you were trading, like, what was it that started really working for you? Did you go through a process, I'm sure, that, like failing and learning, and until you found an approach or a way to make that work for you, which you then started to teach? What did that kind of look like?
Yeah. So look, trading is a long learning journey on your own. It's tough to learn because there is so many different approaches, and you never know what's real and what's not. And it's very hard to tell marketing hype from real trading insights and so on.
Yeah.
And I started trading over 25 years ago. And so back then there was a bit of material around. There were a few courses around, but mostly it was books. And so I just read hundreds of books on trading, and essentially tried a number of different approaches until I started finding some things that resonated with me, because it's not just about do this, it makes money. because you've got to do it over and over and over again. And you've got to keep doing it. You've got to do it consistently, and you've got to stick with it when it's not working, because it doesn't work every single day. You've got to go through the bad times. And so you have to have confidence in your approach. It has to fit your personality, and it has to fit your objectives and the lifestyle you want. So I really went through a process of filtering to look at lots of different approaches and find the ones that really did fit with me, with the life that I wanted to design, with the restrictions and constraints that I had, and but gradually just built up the knowledge. And so my niche really is systematic stock trading. So systematic means rules based. Every single decision in the markets is made with a rule that comes off a chart, and it's objective. The computer tells you buy, the computer tells you sell. It's not subject to discretion. And so there wasn't a lot around on that when I was starting, but there was stuff on systematic trading in other markets, futures and currencies, and there was stuff on stock trading, but not really systematic. And so I pieced together a lot of material and started to find some things that worked, and then built on that to create my own approach. And really that process took sort of the first 3 to 5 years of really just figuring out how to make it work. Then it was a matter of compounding to the point, growing my account to the point where I could step away from the corporate world. And then when I started teaching, I was like, okay, well, people are asking me, how did you do that? How did you leave the corporate world so early? So I had to think, okay, how did I do that? What were my steps? And I basically started to think, okay, well, I went through a process. I built some strategies and I tested some strategies. So I started sharing with people how I did that, like what were the steps. And that gradually turned into kind of a curriculum. And then I got sick of answering the same questions over and over again. So I recorded videos and wrote down, cheat sheets. And then that turned into a course. And then one course turned into a whole program curriculum of courses to basically cover all of the things that, you need to do to master this discipline. So yeah, it just kind of built up gradually, based on, the knowledge that I'd accumulated and all of the testing and validation of ideas that I'd done over the years.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I mean, you can tell you're just a very systematic thinker. Like you've got that engineering background in it. Yeah, you can tell, that's the way that you approach this. And yeah, that's, through that testing, iteration, trialing, making something work, making it your own. How do you, so you mentioned, like you learned mostly through books, because when you started trading, there wasn't this sort of big online market, and courses. And then you started to develop probably at the, beginning of that, because like you said, there's a lot of hype out there. A lot of stuff that might not, might just be over promising, under delivering. How do you differentiate and make sure you're not part of that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is in, first of all, being clear on what you are for and what you're against. If you could clearly articulate, and you're not necessarily saying this to people, but if you, in your mind, if you're clear on what you're for, I'm for people who are quantitative thinkers, who are fascinated by the markets, who have a sizable chunk of money and want to be in control of their own decisions. They don't want to outsource it. They don't want to blindly trust some guru. They don't want to give their money to someone else. They don't trust other people. They just want to master this discipline because they're fascinated by the markets and they want to do it themselves. That's who I'm for. And who I'm not for, who I'm kind of against, are get rich quickers, people who want to kind of flip a coin and win, hope to make it big, who are looking for the next big tip that's going to go to the moon next week. I'm not for people who are on social media saying, what should I buy? What should I sell? I did this and my account's crashed and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not for the real hypey sort of people. And by getting clear on that, everything you share starts to attract those people and repel those people. And the mistake I made when I started teaching was that I was trying to help everyone. And you hear this over and over again, right? In the marketing world, you can't, if you try and help everyone, you'll end up helping no one, because if you try and talk to everyone, then no one listens. The message doesn't get through. And I didn't really get it until I kind of almost accidentally got it right. And then people started responding and, responding to me and engaging and whatever. Because at the beginning, I knew I could help anyone who was interested in trading, because I know enough to guide people and stop them getting scammed and stop them losing money and stop them from blowing up their account and show them a path that will help them make better decisions and be more profitable. Like, I can generally help most people with their trading. However, you can't build a business on helping anyone. You've got to have someone to focus on so that you attract them. And as soon as I started to really focus down on that person, then they really started to come much more easily.
Yeah, again, it makes so much sense, and kind of like you say, you hear this, you hear different ways of people saying this same thing in the marketing world, but it's almost, that's only at the intellectual level until you actually experience it, and it becomes your experience and the experiential wisdom and insights that you gain from that it actually that it then makes sense. And then you're like, wow, I've heard this so many times before, but then when you actually start to do it and then you really get it from the experience level, it's one of those big things, isn't it? That, positioning. And so that's really interesting, because it then sounds like once you got really clear on that, everything downstream in your business, so the targeting, the pricing, the model kind of just started then to flow. Where do you, like, I'm sure you've got traffic from all different places, through the years. What's worked for you and what hasn't, in terms of, your audience, how you built your audience, the traffic that you've got? Tell me a little bit about that.
Look, it's funny because it's so tightly related to the previous question about, who do you service and getting clear on that and that unlocking things. Because for the longest time, like at the beginning, I spent a lot of time on social media. I did a lot of work on Facebook and trying to build an audience and trying to get engagement. And, when Instagram came out, I was like, oh, okay, well, all the marketers are doing this now, so I better do this. And I tried and just, I spent tons of money advertising on Facebook, and I just never got the right people. Just never. Like, I don't think I've ever heard a client, like a mentoring client, say, oh, I found you from a Facebook post and now I'm here in your program. Like, I just don't think that's ever happened. But I fought it and fought it and fought it. And like, I've got to crack this, because all of the marketers talk about you got to do it on Facebook and you got to do Instagram. And when I finally realized who my ideal avatar really was, it was like, these dudes don't use Facebook. Or maybe they do for like a little bit of family stuff, but they're pretty private people generally. They're introverts generally. They're not out there sharing photos of their world travels and stuff on Facebook. And they're not out there on Facebook looking for trading advice, certainly, because that's where the scammers are in their mind, and generally in reality as well. So I've tried traffic in lots of different places, but one of the things I realized is that it's important not to fight reality. Your avatar, the person you're trying to serve, the person you're trying to help, hangs out somewhere. Go there. Like, that's wherever they're hanging out, that's where you want to go. And where are mine? Well, mine are on the web searching for answers. So I've got most of my good leads, most of my volume of subscribers from organic search, because they're looking for something. They're looking for answers. They're looking for, how does this work? They're looking for how to solve this problem. They've got problems in their mind that they need to solve. So I've put content out about those problems, and what do you know? They find it and they opt in, and then they go through the nurture sequence, and then they land. So organic SEO, organic search has been really good for me over the years. Of course, with AI now, that's changing a little bit. I'm still getting plenty of leads from there. More and more, it's coming from AI search mentions.
Mm.
And the other thing that works really well is YouTube, because my ideal avatar are learners. So they're going somewhere to watch training, to get instruction, and YouTube is perfect for that. So I made a lot of YouTube videos as well, and that just like organic search generates a lot of my volume as well. The trick is, though, it's easy to feel like you fail when you kind of get a YouTube channel and you get a couple of thousand views or a couple of thousand subscribers. It's like, oh, well, I'm not going viral. I'm failing at YouTube, right? But then you sit back and think, all right, but if it goes viral, are those people that are going to see my stuff the people that I actually want to work with?
Mm.
And the answer is no, mostly, because viral is mass market. And I know that I'm not set up to help mass market traders, and I don't want to, because I know who my niche is. So I actually don't need to go viral. I just need some content that my niche will actually find and watch. So in direct answer to your question, I would say, look, organic search and YouTube, increasingly AI. And then the other thing that works really well is getting on platforms that my audience watches. So podcasts that my audience watch, being a guest, or online events that my audience watches, being a speaker, are two other really great things to do. And I think the lesson is just be clear in the avatar, then think really hard about where they hang out. Don't assume.
Yeah.
Ask them as well. Do that research, and then go be involved there.
Yeah.
And that's made a big difference, because now, like, I just don't do the things that don't move the needle, because my people aren't there. So why bother wasting the time doing it? Just because all the other marketers are doing it, all the other trainers are doing it, it doesn't mean I have to do it.
Yeah. I love that. I love that answer and everything you said there about, it's that you're absolutely right with, it's not about going viral when you're so clear on who you're targeting and who your niche is. It's not about the virality, is just vanity metrics. You then become at the whims of like social media algorithms, thinking you've got to, jump on every trend and talk about, all the latest and greatest stuff that's all the hypey marketing, stuff in your market. And you just don't seem to be part of that, because that's just all noise and you're really looking for the signal. So like you
And
say,
it doesn't attract the right people. You can do all of that if you want to go viral, like, fine, but that doesn't make you money. And it doesn't increase your impact on the world, right? Actually, one of the things that I learned, which really made a big difference, is that if I get the wrong person into my program, so the person who doesn't have the right mindset, they're not like that analytical person, they're not really kind of systematic in their thinking and approach to life and money and whatever. They're more if I get like the more hypey person, the more get rich quick person. If I get one of these people into my program, to help that one person costs me as much time and energy as helping at least 5, maybe 10 of the right people. And they're still only paying once, right? That one person. So the business really suffered while I was trying to help everyone. Everything was a grind, not just the marketing, but also the delivery, because having the wrong people meant delivery was hard. And it took a lot of energy and time, which took away my time from marketing, which took away my time from building. So everything moved slowly at the beginning. And if I'd have just been clear on exactly who I needed to help, and just focused on them and refused to take money from anyone else, then I would have had more time, more energy, more capacity early in my journey, and it would have been a whole lot quicker.
Yeah.
And I think this idea of being very clear on who it is you're servicing, that you want to target, that you want to help, and not helping anyone else. Like I say to people, I cannot help you. I'm not the right person, and I won't take your money. Because I know if I let that person in, then there's 5 other people that are going to miss out because I don't have the time and energy to deal with it.
Yeah. And Yeah, it's so difficult without having that experience and understanding through that experiential wisdom to actually listen to that and act on that lesson, because turning away people, turning away people's money when you're just getting started, it's
Oh,
just
that's tough.
such, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
it's
But
really hard. But it
yeah,
is like and this is why thinking about what is your mission, who am I helping, or what am I delivering to is so important. And I missed it for a long time. It was just like, I just want to help people who want to make money trading. It's way too broad.
yeah.
And if I could have turned away the wrong people early, I would have been able to build something great sooner
Mm,
because I would have had more time and energy, more
mm,
capacity.
mm. Just quickly, so you mentioned, like a lot of your stuff comes from organic. You said it's changing now with AI. Does that change anything to what, the way that you put stuff out, or do you actually have to make any changes to, ranking or in AI, or how does that work? Or are you just pretty much doing the same stuff when it comes to providing value, but it's just the channels changing the traffic source?
I think the key is in what you just said. It's providing value. If you put out content that doesn't add value, no one's going to see it. Google won't pick it up, the AI platforms won't pick it up, and the user won't see it. It's just lost in a sea of slop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it doesn't really matter that much whether you're thinking about like SEO or AI optimization or whatever. You've just got to add value.
Mm-hmm.
And so if the content is good, people will find it.
Mm.
And it's not quite as simple as that. You've got to do some of the right technical things and everything. You've got to write the articles the right way. You've got to share them and everything. You've got to create some engagement, and you've got to fill gaps, and you've got to compete in areas where you can compete.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a brand new business with very low domain rank, and you've got no links, and you've got no name and no brand, you have to go pretty niche because otherwise you're invisible. You think about it in the trading context. I teach systematic trading. If I went after stock trading at the very beginning, I'm never going to get anything, right? No one's going to see me because there's 1,000 sites ahead of you that have so much more volume and built up credibility and higher domain ranks, all of that. So you've got to compete at a level you can compete so you can actually get seen.
Mm.
And so even still now when I'm creating content, I'm not creating content to try and answer the biggest questions, the highest search questions, because you can't compete. I'm going much more niche, and then it tends to get found. So high value content at a level at which you can compete makes a difference. And then it's also got to be original. Well, it doesn't have to be, but better if it is. So original research, original thinking, not just kind of like rehashed of the same old stuff.
Yeah.
You can only get so far by writing a better version of what someone else has already written. If you can add something new to the world, then that makes a big difference. And so for me, that means something like sharing new trading system ideas and talking about how I developed this new strategy and putting original kind of data in it, research
Mm-hmm.
that I've done. Those sorts of things tend to do better than just content pieces that are really just words and thinking.
Mm.
Yeah, because it's
Okay.
something new and real and novel, and that tends to get picked up a little more, I would say.
Yeah. Interesting. And so as well as being really targeted with your messaging to attract the right people, you even go as far as, and you mentioned this in a previous conversation, you even go as far as like actually culling your audience, your email list, when people opt in and then they don't engage over a period of time, you've got that
Oh yeah,
nurture sequence, and you'll, remove people that, because you're just keeping that super engaged and really targeted. So that all works as well.
yeah. This is one of those other things that's just really hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
At one time, I had a really big email list, but the responsiveness was pretty low. And, I had read and heard that I should cull a list and only email the people who are engaged and who are opening and who are clicking and who are replying. And I was just really nervous that if I culled the list, I would lose sales.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized that the reason it's important is because when people aren't engaged, they're not opening, they're not replying, they're not clicking, they're not seeing your stuff anyway. And if they're not seeing your stuff and you're sending it to them, the email providers know that that's not important to them because they're not opening it.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you end up? First in promotions and then in spam. And if you're sending it to a bunch of people who are not engaged, so you're ending up in their promotions or in their spam, then pretty soon the email providers are saying, oh, this guy is just spamming people. So all of the messages end up in promotions and then in spam. So by sending your material to people who aren't engaging with it, you're ensuring that people won't engage with it because you're going to end up in the junk bin.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started culling the list, open rates went up and click rates went up and engagement went up. Yes, I was emailing much less people because I culled thousands and thousands and thousands. But I didn't lose any sales. In fact, sales went up, if anything, because people were seeing the messages. And so you've got to realize that it's not sending the email that matters. It's someone clicking on the call to action in the email that matters. The drivers of that are working your way back. You've got to have a link to go somewhere interesting, something that they want. And then you've got to have an email that's well written that gets them to read the CTA. And for them to get that email, you've got to have a subject line which they actually open. And for them to read your subject line and open it, you probably have to have sent them other interesting stuff that they have opened. So they're in the habit of opening. And in order to do all of that, you've got to be in the inbox. And if you're going to be in the inbox, then you've got to be sending stuff that people are opening and engaging with to people who are opening it and engaging with it. And if you don't do that, then the click on the call to action doesn't happen. So it's just it's just one of those fundamental things. It's like you've got to send your material, your emails to the people who actually will click, because then you'll actually get the clicks. If you send it to too many people, they won't click. No one will click because you'll be in a junk box.
Absolutely. It's very much comes back to the same principle of, it's the counterintuitiveness of being so targeted, removing people that aren't engaging, putting almost those micro commitment, barriers in the way to pre-qualify them even further. And so it sounds like, you've been doing this for a very long time. You've got so much figured out, and you've got this great business and great model that's just very much all about flow and designed to the way that you want to operate and you want to your lifestyle.
Yeah, it's getting there. I mean, I think to put it all that way, that's a little bit more than maybe what it is. That's certainly the aspiration.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. Well, I suppose my next question was, what's your biggest challenge right now? Like, what are you what's the problem that you're trying to solve right now?
The biggest challenge is making it easier and faster for the members, so that they get the wins earlier, so that I can take them further on the journey. And that's a process of constant refinement and finding the friction points and removing them and looking at the material and figuring out where the questions are coming from and addressing them. I went through this really great exercise last week. I'm installing Claude AI in a whole bunch of areas of my business to help magnify and accelerate. And one of the things I did last week was I got Claude to analyze the transcripts of the last 250 coaching calls I've done. and it went through and looked at all of the questions, and it documented this massive FAQ document, and then it drew out common themes for me and identified the areas of friction. And there's one area that stands out. It's like, this is the thing you have to crack, because if you can, everyone struggles here. So if I can fix that, then the struggle moves further downstream and people flow faster, right? It's just like traffic. Fix a bottleneck, the traffic moves more freely, and eventually they might hit another bottleneck, but then you solve that bottleneck. And so in the journey of developing this program that I teach, it's really been about finding the bottlenecks and debottlenecking it, fixing them. And I've done so much of that. I've just been focusing for a little while on delivering what I've got. And I've just been feeling this little bit of frustration that, the same questions are coming up again. It's like, oh, there's another question on that. Oh, there's another question on that. And I sort of was aware of it. I knew it was a problem, but then I did this analysis, and the AI analysis showed that all of these people were asking very similar questions at same points in the process. And then it says, Claude basically said to me, look, this is the one thing. If you can fix this, then everyone will speed up. It's like, okay, so I've got to debottleneck. And business is continuously a process of debottlenecking, particularly this sort of business, right?
Yeah.
Because you never get it right first time. You do something, it's like, okay, this bit works, but that's broken, or they got frustrated, or like they asked for their money back here, or whatever. So you fix that thing, and then the next thing, oh, that doesn't work. Okay, so it's just you've got to constantly be debottlenecking, be constantly improving and innovating to make it easier and better and faster.
Yeah, I love that. I'm so glad I asked that question, because that sounds really cool. It sounds like you've uncovered a real golden insight to your data. Ultimately, you've collated all this data for a long period of time. You've got all these member student delivery calls and the Q&As, and you've got all this, and then you've got this beautiful ability now with AI, with Claude, to just pump it all in there, and then it can synthesize and figure out like this is and it sounds like you intuitively thought that, and then you've just got, now it's confirmed through concrete data. So yeah, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I did to take that one step further, which is just another example of this debottlenecking, is I have in my program, I have several Q&A calls each week where people are just asking questions and whatever. They're the ones I analyzed. And I have one live teaching call. Most of the teaching content, all the curriculum is all pre-recorded. It's an online course. But I have this one live teaching call where I teach something new, go deep dive on something, run a mastermind. I do a range of different formats. And what I've done is I've wired the decision each week about what that topic is going to be to everything that's coming out of the Q&A sessions, so I can see all the pain points and the friction points, and then I can address them in the weekly live teaching call. And so now what's happening, I have this AI process, which is super cool, where every week the new the new Q&A call transcripts get kind of ingested, and all the questions pop out, and then that informs the live teaching call so that we can deal with the friction and knock it on the head much sooner.
Yeah. I love that. That's super cool. I bet you've got a bunch of really cool things that you're doing with AI right now, because of just the way that you think so systematically, and AI just enables that speed and throughput much quicker with the way that you think. And so yeah, it's I bet it's an amazing sort of co-pilot for you in just optimizing, debottlenecking your business, like you say.
Yeah, it's getting pretty wild what's possible, and it's so far beyond just typing something into ChatGPT and copying it out. That's the Stone Ages in terms of what AI can do for a business like ours.
Yeah. And yeah, especially when you think, and I totally agree, like business getting to the next level, it's about finding the bottleneck and solving that, so you increase throughput, and yeah, when you treat business like that, it gamifies it, so it makes it way more fun. And
Mm-hmm.
now with AI, you get quicker wins and faster wins, whereas it used to be quite like very much delayed gratification, whereas now you can get, faster wins. So it's almost more and more gamified. So yeah, that's kind of the way that I'm looking at it right now. We're in exciting times for sure. What are you most excited about right now?
To be honest, I think I'm most excited about what we were just talking about
Yeah,
is taking AI and using it to create business processes and value for my members that at a scale that I couldn't do previously.
yeah,
Um, previously I would develop trading strategies myself. I'd be spend hours on research, trying different ideas, testing different markets, looking at how this strategy works here and looking how it works over there, and optimizing and fine tuning. And that was all a manual process using software, but not using AI. I've just recently put that on autopilot with AI. So my process that I teach my students, I've got Claude now running that autonomously. And so I can just dump ideas in the end and complete strategies come out the other end. And the cool thing about that is there's so much reuse from that sort of research. So for me, the output of my research is a trading strategy that makes money. Okay. Other types of businesses will have other types of output that is valuable to their clients. But for me, it's a trading strategy that makes money, is something that my clients and my account values. So I've put that on autopilot. So new strategies just keep basically getting cranked out. And so those new strategies, I can use them in my program. I can use them to make new products. I can use them in marketing. I can use them to write emails. I can use them to write articles for the website, for Substack. I can use them to write tweets or posts for X and put them out there. I'll use them to write LinkedIn articles. And all I have to do now, legitimately, is put an idea in here, and all of those different reuse cases spit out. The article spits out, the teaser article to sell the product spits out, the code for the existing students spits out. It just just goes through the whole process. So I had to create that, and those skills are very precisely defined and quite elaborate. It's not like a simple prompt, but now it's just magnifying the scale of what's possible and accelerating it. That's what I'm most excited about. It's like, what else can I do this for?
Yeah. No, that sounds absolutely wild. Like you say, it really is, and it's important to stress that it's only possible, with what you're doing with AI, because you've got such deep domain expertise in your business and in that market, so because you've got that, you can then combine that with AI and create these, like workflows or automations that you then, you develop them, they're meticulous and they spit out the output and they do it, automatically, or you're orchestrating all these, but it's only through having that depth of understanding and expertise in your market that you can achieve that, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's plenty of examples of people around who are clearly using AI to look like they have expertise. But then you read the stuff, it's like, yeah, okay, it sounds plausible, but it's not quite right. So I think having some deep domain knowledge really helps. Now, the cool thing is, if you're starting a business and you don't yet have the deep domain knowledge, then the AI tools can help you get there.
Yeah.
One of the most important, I think, skills, personality characteristics of a business owner now is being able to ask the right questions. Because you can always get an answer, right?
Yeah.
Whether your question's a good question or a bad question, you can get an answer like instantly. So if you can ask good questions and then based on the answer to those questions, come up with more good questions, then you can learn how to do pretty much anything pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But most people are not really great at thinking what questions really need to be answered and refining those. And I think, if you don't have domain knowledge yet, really taking some time to figure out, okay, what do you want to learn and what questions do you need to answer in order to learn that? And then, going out and finding the answers, maybe with with AI largely, but also with real books, and building that domain knowledge really does help build the business.
Yeah. I love that. You've shared some really good insights there. So I really appreciate this conversation, Adrian. Where can people find out more about you online?
Yeah, look, if you go to enlightenedstocktrading.com, that's the website. Look, I mean, I don't teach business, right? I am a trader who has a trading education business, and I teach traders. So if that's something you're interested in learning about, then definitely come there and check it out. I think in terms of the business side of things, I don't have business content out there. I'm happy to take questions from people. If they listen to this and want to email me, they can email me at adrian.reid@enlightenedstocktrading.com. I can do that. Happy to kind of help people out if they're kind of getting started on their journey, trying to figure out how to make an online business work. So yeah, that's probably the best way.
Amazing. Well, I'll put some of those links in the description below, and yeah, Adrian, I really appreciate this conversation, and I'll be watching your growth with great interest.
Thanks so much. Pleasure being on the show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.